You, you there? No. I don't hear you, Ash. I think it's on your end. Everything's normal here. Folks, welcome to the Wade and Carter Show. It's me and Ash. Ash is in a remote location to be disclosed at a later time, and I do not hear him on his microphone or live in any form. So we're working on that. Let me make sure that I've got the right connection on here. I'm almost positive that I do. Yeah, I do. I feel good. I look good. You look good, but I cannot hear you whatsoever. So, hey, I've done the show by myself before. I guess I'll have to do it today because there is zero connection between me and Ash. The Wade and Carter weather is brought to you by the great folks at AT Deerland Feed. For everything you need, there's Deerland Feed. Went by and visited with Jackie Parsons yesterday. She said it's not even deer corn, it's deer feed. We have several varieties of deer feed, and they are in stock at Deerland Feed today. Inviting you to come in. It's 77 degrees and sunny in Victoria, Texas, with a high today of 95. So we've got that going for us. Ash, where are you at, man? Then go back to where it works, because this ain't working. It's a Wednesday. It's a Caldo Wednesday. Nothing like a hot steaming bowl of Caldo from Veracruz Restaurant on a Caldo Wednesday. You're good over here. I'm good. The microphone says Black Magic. It says speakers, Realtek high def. And your feed is hot, and I've got nothing from you. So you're not doing what you did yesterday, or you're doing something different today, or the dog chewed up your homework. I don't know. I know that I'm funny, and I'm here, and I got nothing from you. We were just talking 3 minutes ago. Those of you that listen every day faithfully, we can't thank you enough. Technical difficulties suck. You know the way I feel about them. Commander Cody, of course, AWOL. And I'm not a sound engineer, and I'm not an engineer of any type, like my buddy Mark Kurtz checking in. There's Greg Garcia, Marvin Mickus Jr., Mark Zepeda, Tammy Williams, Crystal Mapp, Bobby Leister. There's BJ Nelson. Good morning, friend. Scott Snow, Stephanie Connie, Wendy Hughes Garcia, P. Strauss. Astros win. Astros win. Astros now winners of 11 of their last 13, playing really good baseball. Lisa Poole, Cody Bauman. Now that you got nothing from you, zero, zeta.
There, how's that? Better?
That's there. Good. See, just acknowledge that was on your end. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, but for some reason, the microphone wasn't connecting to the little Bluetooth receiver on the laptop, so that's rectified.
Everybody knows that the foot bone's connected to the shin bone bone's connected to the knee bone. I'm just a Bill. Renee Medding, Andrew Alvarez. Cody says the issue is on Ash's side. Well, there you have it.
We're good now. We got it sorted out. So glad to be here. I think I saw that it was, I think Marvin Mickus and Mark Kurtz were on the podium.
Yep. Linda Chris, Lisa Poole. There's Katie Jackson checking in. See, she, bless her heart, Katie Jackson came in, had the Wade and Carter experience, which, by the way, you can buy that. You want a day on the program, send us a check. You can come in. We'll let you play radio with us. We won't blame you for any of the challenges that we face. No. But Katie now a chiseled veteran listener. She's in. She's bought in. She gets it. This is where it's happening. Said Stewart, Andrew Alvarez, didn't you call 12 wins? No, I incorrectly. The day that Jeremy Pena returned from an injury, he hits a home run. and I made the comment, don't be surprised if this Astros team is playing loose, having fun, don't be surprised if they win 10 in a row. They did win 9 of the following 10 and have now won 11 of 13.
Yep, 8 of their last 10 now.
8 of their last 10 now.
Looked pretty good yesterday. Wisniewski pitched pretty well.
He did.
They're looking good. And, the interesting thing, until the weekend, Toronto was the second hottest team in baseball behind the Astros. And then they lost 3 over the weekend. I can't remember who they played. It doesn't really matter. And then that's when they decided to be sellers at the deadline. But, coming off that big sweep of the Rangers, this could have been a letdown series for the Astros. I think maybe maybe the first game might have been that with the trade and everything, shaking up the clubhouse a little bit, saying goodbye to Spencer. But last night looked like they got everything back the way it needs to be. And the Astros, I believe, the hottest team in baseball since the All-Star break. And I do want to clear one thing up. Dalton Varsho, as an outfielder, has committed 10 errors in his career, not the 8.
Send him back.
Fact checking myself. So he's committed more errors as a catcher because he's played a little bit of catcher in his day than he has as an outfielder. So
you want to know who drives me nuts? Alejandro Kirk. The guy's from Tijuana, Mexico. I don't know where he got the German last name. I guess it was probably some German that fled World War II Germany.
Lots of Germans in Mexico, surprisingly. Scheinbaum.
Yeah, exactly. Because they fled Nazi Germany, or they fled as Nazis. But Alejandro Kirk, 5'8", 245, has just been a thorn in the side of the Houston Astros when it comes to batting. He'll go up there like a little fire plug and just hit a home run, and you're like, how did he do that? He weighs 245 pounds. It's not all fat.
Well, Varsho's only 5'8" as well. I think he's about 210. I thought he plays bigger than he appears because for a 5'8" center fielder, he gets to a lot of balls.
Absolutely.
He makes plays. There's Jay Dub. Good morning.
Lisa Poole, Torrin Bales. Katie Jackson says she got $1.25 to get on our show.
Kathleen Leininger checks in the mail.
Right? Kathleen's a very helpful listener. She's always got something good content. There's J Dub.
I was completely blown away this morning that Michigan, or at least half of the Democrats in Michigan, are embracing a blatant communist.
Yeah, you're talking about, what was it, 2 million votes cast, and they're at 1.8% lead for whatever El Sayed. What got me, and it's on my list, I could check it off. It's like Wade and Carter bingo. The Ann Arbor area, which is where University of Michigan is, 95% to 5% for El Sayed.
Yeah. And it's funny, Abdul El Sayed, but his website is Abdul for Senate. He's completely distancing himself from his last name.
Yeah, from
which
being
is interesting.
He's trying to hide in plain sight. There's Clayton Hill. Good morning, buddy. He's in Austin, Texas. We're big today in the Austin area, as we are with Monty Howard and folks that live around San Antonio, Brent Anderson, that group. Great listener base from all over Texas.
He's an epidemiologist by trade, studied at the University of Michigan, went to Oxford. He was in charge of Health and Human Services in Detroit. After that, they went bankrupt. Does anybody want a communist epidemiologist in charge of anything?
Well, see, that's my question.
Does he turn into Joseph Mengele?
Well, only to those that don't vote communist. That's all he does. Only for those who don't vote Democrat, socialist. I've been indulgent. My wife said, why are you doing that? Because he's polite, and personally, I like him. But I've had a conversation the last couple of days, just kind of casual back and forth with Mike Gomez, who's an unashamed, lifelong Democrat. And Mike, to a degree, Mike says, I'm Hispanic and I vote Democrat. So with that, I'll welcome our listeners on the mothership at Magic 95.9, a Tejano station predominantly followed by the Hispanic community in our great city. And I say to Mike, my Hispanic friends don't want to defund the police. My Hispanic friends don't want open borders. They don't want no prisons. They don't want to get rid of the Senate and the office of the president as we know it. They don't want, name it, like I said, no prisons, no police, de-escalate the funding for the military. I go, you can't take someone's culture and tell me that just because they're Hispanic that they're for the national Democrat agenda. And I'm paraphrasing Mike, and Mike, if I'm wrong, I'm sorry. But he basically says, on one hand, he says, I'll answer your questions to Jill Buchanan, who's the head of the Democrat Party.
Well, see, here's the problem I've got. She's the chair of the Democrat Party, and she's either acquiescing this to Mike Gomez, or Mike Gomez is taking charge of something he has no business taking charge of.
But he's polite.
It's
just me and him having a conversation.
My questions were to Jewel, and then next thing I know, I also got a message from Mike Gomez because Jewel is running from the questions. She wouldn't even answer them.
But he told me, he said, Jewel is doing great things. And he said, really, and again, I'm paraphrasing, but I'm not going to read it all because it really was between me and Mike. But he goes on and says, she's handing out flyers. She's helping people get registered to vote. She's gathering information. She's made herself very, very intelligent about data centers and yada, yada, yada. Well, the only reason the Democrats are against data centers is to try to pick up the vote of the people that are against data centers. They're just doing anything they can to get power. And that's what brings me to this, Ash. You've got this Mamdani guy in New York. You've got this Al Sayed who's apparently going to win the Democrat nomination in
Michigan. Whose parents fled Egypt back when Egypt was run by despots and dictators. You would think his dad would have instilled some sort of education in him to tell him, look, we don't want to live this way. That's why we came to America. But apparently, if he can go to the University of Michigan Med School in Oxford, his dad was pretty well off, and he's been a child of privilege.
Absolutely.
We'll use the Democrat word against him. This Al Sayed has never known hardship.
That's right.
Way. And that's why he's a communist.
Here you go. Greg Garcia says, now, how would Greg Garcia know this? I don't know if he's a solid source. The values of Democrats do not align with traditional Hispanic family values. To equate Hispanic culture to voting Democrat is a major cop-out. It's just being fearful to admit the truth. But see, here's the other problem, Greg. The left will say to me, well, look at Ken Paxton. He was impeached by his own party. They don't look at the fact that, well, yes, he was, but he was acquitted. And I was there when the Texas House said, you know what? We did Ken wrong. The court proceeding shows that we were incorrect and hasty. We need to reinstate his salary. Yeah. I mean, understand that, yes, anybody can be accused of anything. We have to look no further than Donald Trump to see a man who's been accused of everything. But here's the problem. What if you're Chuck Schumer and you're a Democrat? Do you now embrace the race of El Sayed for the Senate? Or do you say, hey, we can't have this element in our party? Yeah. Which is it?
Well, we know which way it'll go, because when push came to shove, Schumer sided with the squad because he feared for his political life.
That's right. Because of his quest for power.
Yeah. So he will vote for El Sayed if it comes to it. But this guy is running on a platform to get money out of politics and that he believes in the Constitution, but then he wants to reform the Supreme Court. And listen to this. He believes that life-term appointments should end in the Supreme Court. I don't necessarily not agree with him here. When you have people like Ruth Bader Ginsburg who can't even make a decision in the later parts of her life, I struggle.
Dribble cup. She had her
But
dribble
then,
cup on.
But then you've got Clarence Thomas, who's still as sharp as a tack as he's getting older, and that's why they want to end the lifetime appointments, because Clarence Thomas is becoming more of a constitutionalist, it seems, as he gets older, and it's threatening the Democrats, and they don't like this. But he wants to get the money out of politics, but then he's saying this. He wants to allow the same number of appointments for each presidential term. So how do you do that without expanding the Supreme Court into infinite numbers?
And all you're doing
your
is
term only lasts 4 years. And if you don't think money would flow into the Supreme Court races or nominations, then
that's the whole point. The whole point of the lifetime appointment is to remove the
politicization?
Yeah. Is it politicization of the Supreme Court? The idea being that, well, if J.D. Vance gets elected, we get to put 4 more people on the court. Then all you're doing is saying, we're going to build a conservative court. This conservative versus liberal idea is purely a creation of the mainstream media, because at the end of the day, all those people are liberal. I'm sorry. They are bound by their integrity to evaluate legislation. They don't make legislation in any form.
And I do think they have drifted away from the Constitution. I think they're starting to get it right. Rather than interpreting the Constitution as they see fit, this court, in most part, has said this doesn't align with the Constitution. But what I've liked what they've done, they're telling Congress, if you want to fix this, fix it. It's your job to fix it.
That's right.
They did the same. They took, they didn't overturn Roe v. Wade. That's a mainstream media and Democrat talking point.
That's
they
right.
sent it back to the states where it belongs.
Where it belongs. It belongs with the states. Patrick Strauss says blindly voting for someone because a party is just dumb, but that's what Democrats do. And Mark Zepeda comes in with the other point that says, I look at the platform and how it aligns with my principles and beliefs.
And I'm not going to say, but I know Republicans that have voted straight party ticket as well. We used to have that option in Texas. We don't anymore, but you could just go straight down the ticket, Republican. You could hit one button. It would fill in all the Republicans. Your voting duty was done, because both sides pray and rely on uneducated voters to get them elected. Let's be honest. That's the whole purpose of straight party ticket voting. You didn't have to register. You didn't have to research each candidate for every race on the ballot when you could just click an R or a D and be done.
Torrin Bale says the left in blue cities or states keep voting in communists and then complain when they do crazy communist things. Monty Howard says a lot of what the extreme left and the Democrat Socialists of America want to do are going to require changes to the Constitution. And I don't see them getting close to a supermajority of states to support it. The problem is, once you let the ants in the house, the ants multiply. So the thing to do is get some bifin from Deerland Feed and eliminate said pests. It is unbelievable. I don't believe that this El Sayed guy is going to win against any Republican in the regular election. I don't. But the fact is, you keep letting it in. The next thing you know, it's on your school board. The next thing you know, it's on your city council. And the next thing you know, you've got problems. And these people don't care about America. They don't want to assimilate. They want to bring their here. That's what they want.
Yeah, which I've never understood. You fled that to get away from it. And then you come here and you think all of a sudden it's going to be better here because you're in charge of it. They don't want change. They want the power. They want to control lives. They're no different than Anthony Fauci in Fauci's later years when he thought he had all the ability to control American lives with all his COVID restrictions that he recommended.
Here, listen.
That's what communists want. Communists only want what benefits them as the leaders of the Communist Party. They hope to keep the people down. They don't educate, they brainwash. So they can keep people in submission. But we don't teach that. We teach the virtues of communism in our schools. And that's the problem. There are no virtues in communism. We've phrased them that way so that all these people coming out of college believe, and out of high school believe they deserve something. Simply for getting a piece of paper for walking across the stage, they deserve everything that life has to offer them. They don't want to work for it. It's crazy and ridiculous.
Well, it's no different than if you're in a classroom with little kids who have been, in theory, taught at home to share, to be polite, to be kind. And you ask that group of children, which is better, that one of you has all the cookies, or that we put all the cookies on the table and everybody gets a cookie? Well, of course, even I would say, when it comes to cookies, yes, let's do that. Let's do that. But it's not the same as to take that example and extrapolate it, expand it. It's no different than me saying, Friday, we're going to have cookies. Oh, good. My mom will bring them. No. We're going to go to your house. The cookies will cost $10, and there's 10 of you. So we're going to take $3 from each of your parents, and then we're going to send people in who basically are indentured because they owe us. And they're going to bake the cookies in your parents' kitchen. And then we're going to, by the way, we're going to keep the kitchen when that's over so that in the future, the price of cookies will be cheaper for everybody. And we're going to bring cookies to everybody.
Well, what's missing in all those analogies that the left tries to use, good morning, Marina, is they forget somebody brought those cookies to school to share under their own free will. They weren't forced to do it, right?
Let's listen to this. Just watch how stylish I am here.
Freedom is a fragile thing, and it's never more than one generation away from extinction. It is not ours by way of inheritance. It must be fought for and defended constantly by each generation, for it comes only once to a people. And those in world history who have known freedom and then lost it have never known it again.
Amen.
Knowing this, it's hard to explain those among us who even today would question the people's capacity for self-government. I've often wondered if they will answer, those who subscribe to that philosophy, if no one among us is capable of governing himself, then who among us has the capacity to govern someone else? Using the temporary authority granted by the people in increasing number lately at all levels of government, have sought control even of the means of production, as if they could do this without eventually controlling those who produce. And always they explain this as necessary to the people's welfare.
I don't need the government helping me with my welfare. I don't believe in welfare. Think of the words they use to get things done. Welfare, communal good. Mom Donnie said we have to quit thinking about rugged individualism and start thinking about the collective. It's communism. The late, great Ronald Reagan telling you straight up what you need to know. I heard that speech live. It resonated with me at a time when I didn't even think it was possible, at a time when I thought Ronald Reagan was fear-mongering. I did. I thought, oh, Ron, come on. You're losing it, Ronnie. There's not. Who would have ever thought? How many of you would have ever thought that Americans would elect communists in this country who don't even hide from it anymore?
Nope.
They don't even try to hide it. There are young people among us. And by the way, I'm going to say it. I always hate to say things I don't think that it's fair that from my perspective at 63, it's not right for me to say, even though it may be true, that all young people would benefit from at least 2 years of military service. That's not my place once my military years have passed me by. If I was 18 and saying that, that's one thing. But at 63, oh yeah, it's easy to send someone else's kid into the military. Just as if you're a Democrat, it's easy to offer all this free stuff because you're using other people's money to do it. And the fact that you're willing for your taxes to go up to pay for these things doesn't make you better than me. It just makes you more tolerant than me. But I'm not convinced that the voting age in this country shouldn't be 25. I'm also not convinced that it shouldn't come with some requirements. Aside from the fact that you should be an American citizen to vote, maybe you do need to show proof of employment. Maybe you should have some status, like if you're officially retired, of course you can vote. If you're an American and you've got a job and you're over 25, of course you can vote. But allowing a bunch of 18-year-old idealistic children still on their parents' dole or hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt from their choices regarding higher education, for them to be able to vote for a party that promises them a free lunch with your money doesn't seem right to me. Who are you going to vote for, Ash? The guy, because 90% of Americans don't believe that the government affects their daily lives because they're just that stupid. But the reality is, if you're in that booth by yourself and one party says, on day one, I will forgive all your student debt, and the other party says, you made that debt, you need to pay it.
Well,
which one are you going to vote for?
Al Sayed headed up a program that got rid of $700 million in Medicare debt, which is already paid for by the people. And then the people were just told, you know what? We're just going to forget it.
Yeah.
This guy, and the fact that the Democrat Party embraces these folks, they don't call them out for what they are. Communism has killed more people in the last 200 years than any other political movement on the planet. More than were killed in World War I and World War II combined died in China under Mao Zedong.
Yeah.
Stalin killed more than Hitler did.
Some quick hits from the crowd. James Kerr says, I'll say it. He says, in Israel, even special needs folks have a place in the IDF. They might not be combatants, but they have the ability to wear the uniform of their nation with pride. Greg Garcia says, it's all about virtue signaling. All the optics of being benevolent, because when it comes down to it, Democrats know their ideas are a house of cards that will topple. That's why a guy like Chuck Schumer, there is no Democrat voice that runs counter to the DSA. There is no strong Democrat leader anywhere who can say, stop. Hakeem Jeffries can't step up and say, we need to stop thinking this way.
You know
It
why?
will not work because he's afraid of losing his position.
That's exactly it. They've already let the camel under the tent, so to speak, in the communists. And now they know if they speak out against the communists, they are destroyed.
That's
politically.
Right. If
which
you
is
don't
a
believe,
metaphor for what communists will do to your life if you oppose them once they
100%.
get power, because it's exactly what they do. The fact that the Democrat Party embraces these folks, lets them run in their primaries, and don't have the guts to go, you know what? Go start your own communist party.
That's
and get
right.
the hell out of our Democrat Party. The fact they let them into the Democrat Party means that the Democrats don't believe in the ideals of America anymore either.
And they know they hate America. The Democrats hate America.
They do. Communists do not believe in the freedoms and the values that have founded America and most of Western civilization.
Nothing's sacred about the Constitution. It's just a piece of paper. That's what they say. Michelle Wilson-Hawkins says, I think it's hilarious that Mamdani is requiring an ID to shop in his free grocery store. No, there's no doubt about it. These people want open. Did you know that last year, the United States, this doesn't just count the people that we let in every year legally, but the U.S. naturalized 900,000 new citizens. That's a lot more people than we have deported. Yeah, Linda Christ asked some tough questions. Why is he acting like he's running the country? He's a mayor, and he's not doing a very good job of being a mayor. The media is blowing his position way out of proportion and not concentrating on his lack of knowledge regarding his job. We've already talked about the fact.
Well, here's the thing. New York City is the biggest city in the U.S., probably the most important city in the U.S. outside of Washington, D.C. And the media has always treated mayors of New York this way. It's not just Mamdani. They did it with Bloomberg. They did it with de Blasio. They did it with Giuliani. They did it with Ed Koch, going back as far as I can remember. The media has always treated the mayors of New York this way. So it's not unique to Mamdani. He's just the latest. And the next one will be treated the same way in New York. They always do it. It's just the way the media is, because New York is the biggest city and the most important city outside of the lawmaking in Washington, D.C. It's not a Mamdani phenomenon. It's a New York City mayor phenomenon with the media.
Greg Garcia says the establishment Dems are basically saying that it's better to be the right hand of the devil than in his path. And the problem is, and it's really no different. I know Democrat folks who don't buy into all this LGBTQ garbage. I know Democrat folks that understand that there's only men and women and that you don't have all these multiple genders and identities. By the way, a guy said the other day, he said, you got the Detroit Pistons in basketball. Piston being a part of an engine, Detroit being Motor City. I mean, that's what it's all about. So he suggests that the WNBA let in a transgender team, the Detroit Transmissions, and then they could just call them the trannies. And that would be great. That sounds great. You could just have them in your midst and just get them out in the open. But when you see a guy, Hakeem Jeffries, when Mamdani won at his celebration party, remember that Hakeem Jeffries, isn't he from New York? Well, they said, you're next. We're coming after you. He is about as establishment a Dem as there is, and is even a left-leaning Dem. He's not far enough left for them. This is a prime opportunity. I know when I look at my friends like Peter McNally that the Democrat Party has left Peter McNally. I know that. I get that. He can't bear to be a Republican because he believes in the benevolence and the kindness and the gentle nature of what he perceives the Democrats to be. But Ash, do you agree that now is a time for the Republican Party to do some really hard reflecting and maybe swing back a little bit towards the middle? Don't combat the Dems, but embrace the disillusioned, heartfelt Democrat that doesn't want to be involved in all this communist garbage, and get those folks back in our tent or in the Republican.
I don't know how you do it without sacrificing your conservative principles, because too many of them believe that big government is the answer and government is the answer and the solution to all their problems in life, because unfortunately there's not enough individual accountability in the Democrat Party and those who align themselves with the Democrats to see that they've played a role in where they are in life because of the decisions they've made. It's society's problem. The government, I mean, so I don't think so. I think you have to stay true to the principles, combat communism, and hopefully, I mean, you've got to undo a generation and a half of indoctrination of how good communism is through school. And that's hard to do.
Yeah.
And you pointed out little things like, and yeah, sharing is good, whatever, but little things, right? Like you pointed out, well, if I bring cookies for myself, I don't have to share them with everybody. If I want to, that's great, but that's my choice to do so.
Right. That's exactly right. I just look at it and say that if the Republicans, and here's the problem, we live in such a microwave society that you need to institute change like now. For example, the stock market was at 54,000 yesterday. Go look at your 401k, people. The economy is booming. I was at the Texan store this morning. There were more contractors there than Bob Vila's house. And I'm not exaggerating. This deal, there were people that are building solar panels, and these are working people. They were all driving $80,000 pickups with, Ross and Koenig beds on the back. There is money at work in Victoria County, but nobody wants to talk about that. First of all, my Dem friends aren't up this early to see the working man. And secondly, nobody wanted and Mike told me yesterday, nobody cares about the stock market, all that, but they sure did in the first Trump term when they said everything he did was for the stock market. But
says the guy who's retired from Dow and probably living off the stock market.
And his money has doubled. And you look at it and you say, he says, all they care about is what they're paying at Walmart. Well, you know what? Then quit buying all the sugary drinks and stuff. Buy what you need. Trump is I tell you what needs to happen. He either needs to poop or get off the pot when it comes to Iran. I don't care. I would actually personally somewhat revel if he went over there and blew up every bridge and every power plant. Let those rugs go right back to the tent. I don't care. But you need to end this waste of time in Iran because you're just tiptoeing around what you said you were going to do. I'm going to get the uranium. Well, either get it or let's get out. That's one thing. The second thing is I think that the Republicans have to make a genuine effort to do something as pertains to the perception that nobody has any health coverage in this country. If the Republicans came out with a plan that actually, quote unquote, solved the health care crisis, contrived. I don't have one. Do you have one, Ash? Do you have a health care crisis?
I've got issues, but no crisis.
Right. I mean, look, people, well, I know you got some mental health issues and things, and I get that. Yeah. Yes, Patrick Strauss, Mike Gomez told me nobody cares about the stock market. Yeah. Yeah. But I think that if Americans could be a little bit patient, if we could get this war behind us that needs to be behind us, which, by the way, there's no chance that the president's cabinet would advise him to attack Iran if it wasn't important. The timing is so poor. Nobody would say, tell you what, Mr. President, why don't you bomb Tehran? That'll get us all the votes in the midterm. That's one reason I lean on the expertise of the community that advises the president.
Well, I guess we need to take a break and then let's shift to Iran because there's some developments that took place earlier this week that the media is kind of avoiding and they're focusing on the wrong things. And I want to get to.
I'll get that with you. I'm going to read this before we go. It says Torn Bells adds and good morning, Sheriff AJ Louderback, House District 30 State Rep. Good to see you check in, sir. The independent is the voting bloc that should benefit from the Democrats wanting a new home. Then they can vote Republican without becoming a Republican. There's a large block of normal Democrats, I think that could be an oxymoron, that don't want the crazy the Democrat Party stands for today. I agree with that. There is definitely a need for a third and maybe a fourth party.
Well,
maybe
I will say this regarding
independent party and a communist party.
Canada, the parliamentary system seems to align itself better with parties. And at least from an election standpoint, you can vote for the Green Party. The New Democrat Party in Canada is basically the DSA, but at least they run their own party and their own candidates who believe in socialist and communist principles, and they outwardly identify that way. They don't hide in the political closet hoping you never discover them like the Democrat socialists do here, although they're starting to kind of take a toe out of that political closet a little bit. But the problem becomes in the parliamentary system, if you have a minority government, then you sell your soul, and it's typically the liberals with the communists or the socialists.
You have to make the deals. You have to make the deals
to get stuff passed, or your political career is over. And so the deals either happen on the back end, like they currently are happening with the Democrat Party, where Schumer acquiesces to the communists.
Who would have ever thought that?
Closed doors, or they happen in Parliament, where deals have to get done. And it would be the same thing here. If we had a third party that was able to get some seats, depending on which way they were, if they were Tea Partiers and they factioned off from the Republicans, or they were the communists who ran under their own party banner, either side would be making a deal in order to get legislation passed so that they could still have power in the House and the Senate.
Let me tell you what I'm going to do, Ash. I'm going to put you in timeout. Take this.
All right. Good. I need another coffee.
You also need to find me a Atzenhofer deal of the week. I guess Eric Stewart checked in. So let's take a quick break, and then I'll load you back up. Folks, Atzenhofer and Atzenhofer.com, it's pretty simple. You get into Atzenhofer, you find the vehicle you want. You can literally go into their webpage and manipulate it and say, I want to look at Chevy pickups no older than 2020 with less than 50,000 miles. And the vehicles that are pertinent will pop up. You can arrange them by price, high to low, low to high. Best deal. Atzenhofer makes your shopping online easy. For over 100 years, Atzenhofer has been Victoria's dealership, and folks like Eric Stewart drive that bus. White Wing Materials. You need sand for a project. You want to build a outdoor patio with pavers. You need sand. You need gravel, aggregate, topsoil, fill dirt. Call White Wing Materials at 920-SAND. Give them a call, White Wing Materials. Chesnick Furniture. Chesnick and Love make your house a home. See why you just always do better at Chesnick. Chesnick has great values on heirloom quality furniture. This is not pressboard. This ain't IKEA. Get by Chesnick for furniture that is an asset to your family, and let Bobby Leon show you how you just always do better at Chesnick. Palace Bingo, it has been announced. August 12th, bingo night. Palace Bingo, where friends meet friends. Get by. Feel free to come to Wade and Carter night at Palace Bingo. It's a 4-year tradition of fun. USA Concrete Coatings, USA Foundation Repair. If you have cracks in your sheetrock, if your doors don't close, if your ears hang low, you can tie them in a bow. Anyway, get by. Dial 578-HOME, and they will get by to help you level out your house. So there's Ash. He's back.
I found it. Here it is. I'm going to bring it up.
Are you
my Atzenhofer pick of the week?
The pick of the chick?
Yeah.
What was that? What was the pick of the chick? While you're bringing that up, let me tell you this. Did you know that SpaceX had a 4-ton piece of steel that basically is the size of a school bus? It hit the moon this morning, 2:35 a.m. at 5,400 miles an hour.
Yeah.
This piece of space junk, which had been kind of, they said, nudged towards the moon by cosmic forces, which means gravity.
Well,
Nudged it towards
and
the moon.
some propulsion. They steered it into the moon.
5,400 miles an hour. Now, they're saying that there wasn't a satellite with a direct shot of it live, but what they're going to do is there should be a plume of dust that comes up off the moon, and we should be able to see that later today. Tell us about this Buick Encore.
Well, it's a 2014. It's got low miles and it's right around $10,000. It's under, I think it's around 76,000 miles. So low miles for a car that's 12 years old. But this would be a great, reliable vehicle. These Buicks have held up. Their long-term reliability is good. It's a small SUV, great vehicle for somebody who's a new driver in high school and you're tired of getting them to and from football practice or volleyball practice or cheer practice. Buy them this vehicle for right around 10 grand, and your kid's gonna have a very reliable car to get around town in and probably even take to college. So there you go. There it is.
Something people need to know is that when Atzenhofer gets a car in, for them to keep it and put it on their lot, it goes through a multi-point inspection that they say, okay, we're willing to put the Atzenhofer Flying A on the back of this car.
Yep.
Otherwise, they just send it off to auction. So somebody
6,000 miles on this car, and
that's not a lot.
Anywhere from 25 to 33 miles a gallon. So very economical and nice little car.
Fantastic. Good job, sir.
You're welcome.
What do you
It'll be sold today. Go see Dinah. She'll treat you right.
What do you make of Susan Collins, Republican senator, saying, I'm not going to vote for Todd Blanche because this is for head of DOJ. She feels like the Department of Justice under Mr. Blanche has been somewhat manipulated by the executive branch, that they're doing things that are political in nature as opposed to being autonomous. My problem with Ms. Collins, she basically said the office of the Department of Justice should not be political. Now, I believe that the only reason that Ms. Collins is saying this is because she has a really feisty Democrat opponent for her own reelection, and she's trying to acquiesce to the Democrats in her district. Do you see that hypocrisy, and does it concern you, or am I off base?
No, it's the political hypocrisy that exists. It's not the same hypocrisy that exists among most Democrats of privilege who just live a life of hypocrisy. They want everybody else to help people out. They've got money and they don't use it to help. It's shown in how Democrats give versus Republicans, but this is her trying to acquiesce to the moderates. This is a good example. She's trying to acquiesce to the moderates in her party or the independents who might swing her way because they don't like the Democrat candidate. That this is Maine, right? This is the one they instilled because Graham Plattner had to drop out.
Yes.
So it's part of that hypocrisy so she can get elected. What she fails to realize or even acknowledge is the DOJ has been weaponized since the Clinton era.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Much as Barack weaponized the IRS.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's, and you could argue that Trump's going after his opponents and others, but I don't know that he's just, not righting the ship in some way, exposing how political the DOJ had become.
Right. And I don't know. Barack Obama, finally said what everybody was thinking. Hey, look, elections have consequences. And the problem is that the various departments of our government had been allowed to drift so far left through DEI hiring, woke principles and practices. So many things have happened that make it not It's just not realistic. It's not sustainable.
Well,
That when you put in someone conservative, they look like a czar.
yeah. Well, I mean, Barack Obama's quote could be expanded to life, but choices have consequences, right? Republicans tend to live that way. Democrats seem to make excuses for them and want to try to soften the blow of any poor choices a person makes in their life from those consequences. And I think that sums up the difference between the two parties.
So that kind of brings me back around to where I was. I think that there are a lot of Democrats certainly in our community. Well, there's not a lot of Democrats in our community. Thank you, Lord. But the ones that are here, even the closeted ones, the reason they're closeted is because the Democrats have no popular agenda items. They're not popular. They're a 90-10 party. They're on the 10% side of everything that's incorrect in this country. Is there a place for Republicans, Democrats, Socialists of America, and I'm not a Republican? Because that's why a lot of people vote Democrat, because I'm not a Republican. I don't like Donald Trump. I believe the stupid offerings of the Main Street media, although none of these things have ever been verified. You've got a judicial system that absolutely clamors for the opportunity to put Donald Trump in prison. They would love to impeach, arrest, and convict Donald Trump. And yet, time and time again, well, there's just simply no evidence that Donald Trump incited a riot on January 6th. If you look at the timeline and you put Donald Trump's speech in total, not cut down to fit the media's narrative, if you look at Donald Trump's speech and put it side by side with what's going on at the Capitol, it exposes the fact that there were a handful of lunatics at the Capitol. And I think it's just as likely that those lunatics were plants by the FBI, a corrupt FBI at the time, and they were plants by the left to ensure that Donald Trump went out with a whimper and looked terrible on Election Day. I just don't buy it. There's never been one court ever that decided to indict Donald Trump on the word insurrection, which is a carefully chosen word because it's in all of our legislation. That's why it's there. That's why they use that.
Well, and I'm going to call out the president's behavior earlier this week when he got mad at Jeanine Pirro for throwing out that case against the alleged reflecting pool vandalizer, because it turns out that they didn't do any vandalizing. The coating they put down or the liner they put down was bad and peeling up. So,
which, by the way,
he's mad at her for throwing out a charge because he wanted the charge to stick, or that has no basis to stick. The evidence shows that this person did not vandalize the reflecting pool. Why are you mad at a judge who throws out an innocent person or charges against an innocent person?
Well, because it doesn't fit his agenda. And Donald Trump, again, this is not my president right or wrong. I will agree with you and call him out on the fact that I don't think that 99% of Americans care at all about the reflecting pool. No, they don't.
Agree.
But
the media made it an issue.
I also simply can't believe that in 2026, 57 years after we put a man on the moon, wink, wink, we can't find a way to seal some leaks in a reflecting pool. At the end of the day, it's a 2-foot hole in the ground. You can't find a way to make it waterproof? Come on. So I don't know what you do with that.
Line it with a bunch of kiddie pools. That'll work.
Just take a bunch of old diapers from Walmart and put them in there.
Get them off the parking lot.
Right. So, they'll say, look at that algae growing. No, that's diaper seepage.
Cyclosporiasis. 2 people
Right.
died of that in Michigan, by the way. Monday, President Trump said this is Iran's last chance to make a deal.
I mean it. This time I mean it. I'm going to get up and spank you. I mean it. He sounds like a really weak parent. Now, he said that they are calling him, and they say they're not, and that both sides may be telling the exact truth. The reasonable side of the IRGC or former military people may be going, hey, Mr. President, please don't blow up the power plants. Come on, man, let's work together. And the hardline military idiots may be saying, I didn't call him. He ain't nobody. Yeah.
But instead, what did the media focus on this week? The fact that Trump has issued these warnings time and time again, and we get a pause, and then we go back to bombing them. We get a pause. You and I have talked about this probably
Let them
about a
rearm,
month or so ago.
let them rearm. Send a new purchase order to Raytheon. Send a new purchase order to McDonnell Douglas.
Yeah.
Pad the donors' pockets. I mean, I did read a deal the other day that said, hey, look, at the end of the day, both parties, they're just different wings on the same bird. Tammy Williams says, Trump is gentle parenting Iran. I agree. He's got him in economic timeout because he's got the strait bottled up and he's policing their ports.
But we already had him in an economic timeout because we had sanctions against them, and we weren't doing anything to Russia or China, who were helping them violate those sanctions, and we were allowing them to sell a little bit of oil here and there. But
we are in a de facto war against
humanitarian
China.
Purposes. But when you attack a country, the time for gentle parenting ends, in my opinion.
That's right. You want to hit them hard and get it over with and move on.
Stephanie Coney says he's mad like we were all mad. People need to be held accountable, and that's still up for debate, Ash. Who's mad over the reflecting pool? Nobody. I think it's a stupid it shouldn't even be an issue.
I did see a deal the other day, and I don't remember which monument it was. I know I've seen it in person, but it showed the defacing of some people had written fascism and things on some statues, and they have some very elaborate, if you're going up the steps, there's big lions and things that are on display in DC, and somebody had defaced it and written on it, and they showed how they are now under Trump, and they're just beautiful again. And while that is not as important as Americans working, as illegals being deported, as our borders being secure, it is symbolic. The pride that Donald Trump has tried to reinstate into our country is important. The way people feel does affect the way people act. And you look around, and I give Donald Trump all of the credit for this. You still see exponentially more military veterans wearing their hat that shows where they served, Vietnam veteran. Those folks are getting older every day. We lose lots and lots of Vietnam era veterans to death, to suicide, but to old age. These if you were 22 in 1970, which is actually kind of towards the end, right, of the Vietnam era, that was 56 years ago. You're now 78 years old. These are not youngsters. These are not hippies. These are old gentlemen who fought as instructed. I think everybody can now agree that there were multiple forces at play that made the Vietnam War go on longer than it should have, if it should have ever happened at all. The United States injecting itself in other people's business, Vietnam's proximity to China, the political battles going on with China back then, still going on. I don't know. None of those people died in vain to me, but I'm really thankful that it wasn't my dad or my brother. So I don't know what you do about that. I don't know.
I don't either.
But I'm proud that Donald Trump has elevated the cultural status of all of our military personnel. They are all respected by the administration, which they weren't. They weren't. Biden.
I think part of that comes from appointing somebody like Pete Hegseth as the Secretary of War, because you got rid of the politicians that were running that and turning it into a bureaucracy. And it has returned back somewhat into a meritocracy, which is what most military strives to be,
right,
until it gets to a point where, you know, you don't have wars. So we have umpteen more generals than we ever had during World War II, when
and more than we
was
need.
hitting the fan.
That's right.
You know,
well, you also, it just, again, the left, their biggest tell is always hypocrisy. How about the idea that, well, Pete Hegseth is certainly not qualified, but they elected AOC, and now they think that broad ought to be president? Come on. We owe some sponsors some love tomorrow. We'll get to it, folks. It's the top of the hour. Ash, I'm going to let you go get your day. Beautiful day. Quick day. We'll talk about water hacks tomorrow. We do have some things to mention about that and concerns, and we'll talk about what you can do in Victoria to protect your water. So I just made that up, Ash. Try to find something good for us to talk about tomorrow. I'm going to say bye to you, buddy, and we'll talk later today.
We'll see you all tomorrow.
That's right. We love you. Hope you guys have a great day. Be safe on the roads. Stephanie, thanks for being a part of the program. Bye, guys.